It's become a huge passion of mine now, just to really help men. Wanting to start this video series called Bro Toko as well, which is all about interviewing other men, a lot of Maori men as well. Just sharing one or two helpful practical keys on what are the things that actually help them come through the depression or help them process through it. Yeah, because a lot of us men need to speak up, and I think it's in our vulnerability we're able to give others hope.
Graham Hoete, a.k.a. Mr. G, is recognised internationally for his photorealistic, large-scale, spray-painted portraits. His art is simply incredible, and this is his story. Mr. G, Graham Hoete, Indigenous 100. E te hoa, nau mai. Nau mai ki tēnei hōtaka. Mr. G, the man, Graham Hoete, tēnā koe. Thank you for coming on Indigenous 100, and thank you for being a part of our program. Hey, where are you from? Originally?
Anō Tauranga Moana hei, no te mautere o Motiti, me te mautere o Matakana. I was also actually brought up in Kawerau as well, till I was 14 years old, so my father used to work at the mill with Uncle Tasman.
Uncle Tasman,
Uncle Tasman,
te tahi mana.
That's where I was brought up.
Wow, tell me a bit about your family, like mum and dad, because I know your dad worked in the mill.
Yeah. Well, brought up in Kawerau, partly, or mostly, but every school holidays we used to go to either Matakana or Motiti Island, because dad will be building the whānau house there. They now live there now. Mum and dad live on Motiti Island. So, I think for me, when someone asked me the question, where's home for you? I always kind of think of that saying, there's that saying, where do you want to be buried? And I think immediately for me, that place would be Motiti Island, so that's the place I consider home. But I also have strong links to Matakana Island as well through my mother. She's a Murray, or the Murray whānau on Matakana. And I guess, being brought up in Kawerau, Motiti Island with a population of roughly 40 people, no electricity there, long job toilets, dirt roads and all that, it's a very simple life but beautiful life as well, and I think the way we define wealth over there is very different, to I guess the Western way of how we define wealth.
Well, even in Kawerau. I mean, there's a lot that people say about Kawerau and the town and growing up in the town. And one thing I've noticed about people from Kawerau, a couple of mates from there, Shane DePoe and Morgan Godfrey and others, like they're staunch supporters of Kawerau, like they're staunch, bro. It's like, I heard about Kawerau and the way people talked about it, going, must be a fascinating place. They got to turn up and go,
apparently 1 year it won the most beautiful town in Aotearoa.
Is that right? Wow, I didn't know that.
Wave that flag around. I know that place like the back of my hand, I just love trout fishing, and just the memories of all us kids doing bombs out of the trees down the Awa, and all that, and everyone knows everyone too, from there. You either just ask for the last name, and boom, where you go, you make all those connections, and it's beautiful memories there, but again, Motiti and Matakana, that's just beautiful memories overall.
So what did you do to, don't take this the wrong way, but pass the time away? There's no rainbow's end, right?
Well, I think, I was first, I guess, inspired and influenced when it came to the whole art journey was watching my older brother. I was 4 years old at the time, and we were just sitting on the kitchen table. He just had a big pen and some of that old school computer paper.
Oh yeah.
And
with the holes down.
Yeah. And he just started drawing just off the cuff this amazing picture of Conan the Barbarian, yeah. And as a little 4-year-old boy, you know, it was just like a bit of an inspirational trigger moment for me.
Oh yeah. So you're 41 now, yeah?
Yeah.
And how old's your brother then? Well, how old's your brother now, sorry?
Oh gee, you're putting me on the spot there.
The reason I ask is because that's what my brother used to do.
I'm the baby, yeah, he's the eldest,
yeah.
And
because bro, that's what a lot of Maori kids did back in those days, was go watch the movie, Conan the Barbarian, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then draw away, right? Or Thor, or
you know, Bruce Lee, all that, you know, and so those were some real trigger moments for me with my art, and you know, then when I went to primary school, Hoete South School, we used to have drawing competitions. Just of He-Man and Optimus Prime and all that sort of thing, you know, so...
It's all coming back to me now.
Yeah, and, you know, when we went to Hoete College, we all used to have those old school canvas bags.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and we always used to, you know, do the pen and twink checkered board down the strap, and, you know, pictures of Iron Maiden and all that sort of stuff, so yeah, that was, you know, but it was my art teacher at Hoete College, Mr. Ratledge. Now, he was actually a bit of a grumpy old fella, yeah, but the thing is, you knew when he said something positive, you knew that it was real, yeah, and I remember when I was third form, he was showing a lot of my drawings and stuff to a lot of the senior students and stuff. I didn't really know, but it was the other senior students that were telling me, so, oh, Graham, senior, you know, Mr. Ratledge showed us your artwork and your drawings, and he one day actually said to me, you've got a gift, Graham, you know, and you really need to pursue art, you know, sort of thing. So that really, again, just kind of instilled self-belief and just affirmed, I guess, in my own heart, you know, that I do have something, I guess, unique and special there.
Do you remember the first thing you ever drew? As a 4-year-old, copying your brother, perhaps, of Conan the Barbarian?
Yeah, well, I do actually. It was a drawing of a spaceship in one of Mum's encyclopedia books. Yeah, so, you know, but yeah, you know, that's, I guess, some of the main memories I have of my art journey.
Well, before we go right into it, right, let's try and peel back a bit, because where do you think this has come from? I mean, obviously your brother thought he had a bit of a knack doing the old Conan the Barbarian drawing, because that's an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Where do you think that's come from, this kind of art?
Yeah, well, my father was very creative as well. He was brought up on Motiti Islands, so they had to really, you know, think outside the box, because they didn't have access to, you know, acrylic paints or charcoal or all that sort of thing. So him and his twin brother were very creative, and they're known for being very creative. They used to make, you know, little ships out of fishing line, and you know, the old school string hand lines, you know, with all that, and driftwood, and on the island when they were kids. But they also, Dad used to paint portraits as well with house paint as I was growing up, and all self-taught, you know, and he's done drawings of like horses and carts. He's doing a book at the moment, just on his life growing up on the island, and just all these beautiful, just hand drawings of just his life on the island, you know. So you got the horse and carts doing the maze and all that, and the tiger moth planes and all that sort of thing. So yeah. So Dad was another major influence there. Yeah.
Well, is there anything that, as you go back through the whakapapa, that kind of is a little bit of a light bulb that says, that's where it all came from? Or is there anything else that suggests, this is where we got the kind of...
Yeah, I think there's no like one exact moment or point, you know. I think just being influenced by my brother, my father, and I was always fascinated by the other artists at Hoete College too, that I used to really be inspired by. Another guy, Lawrence Pito, he was a awesome artist, you know. But yeah, there was just, every time I saw a really awesome drawing or whatever, I was really inspired and I loved it, And
even way back then.
Yeah.
So pretty clearly, because you had other interests, right?
Yeah,
you're a pretty tall, well-built guy, so I'm sure you did a bit of sport.
I used to play volleyball and
what?
done a bit of Muay Thai as well, sort of thing. But
Muay Thai kickboxing.
Yeah. Done a bit of Muay Thai, but volleyball, like I used to play volleyball for New Zealand in '97, and volleyball was a huge passion of mine as well in college. We took out the nationals in '97 for Tauranga Boys College when I moved from Hoete to Tauranga, and so yeah, I got MVP that year as well too. And I'm not saying it but volleyball was a huge passion of mine, And
so why not follow sport more? What triggered you kind of?
Well, I ended up injuring my back in '98. I actually got put forward to there was a Japanese club team called Hitachi where they were scouting New Zealand for players, and my name was put forward. I missed out on that, but I did love volleyball with a passion, and but I injured my back in '98 playing beach volleyball, and I kind of had to revert back to I guess my other passions, and so art was really the one. And so from there I just started to try and pursue, I guess, job opportunities and stuff that related to art in some way, and I got into graphic design. I taught myself graphic design purely through just YouTube and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so let's hold up before we get to graphic design. Let's go back to school though, right? So when did you know that you kind of had, aside from the teacher saying to you, oh, you got a bit of a gift here, you might want to think about it, but when did you know instinctively you knew, oh, there might be something here for me, might be something I better follow up on?
Yeah. I guess for me, I started to realise that I did have, I guess an above average drawing ability. I was really inspired by another artist, Boris Vallier. He used to do a lot of these posters and had his signature Boris. And a lot of artists around maybe the 80s and 90s, they know the name Boris. And I remember drawing, copying his drawings and posters and stuff, and I realised I was almost drawing them identical, at a very young age, and just I guess other friends and people kind of just affirming, saying, "Oh, bro, you're a mean drawer, bro," blah blah blah, all that sort of thing, and I just kind of just carried on, didn't really think too much of it, but I did enjoy it, and
was anything else influencing you? Because the 90s were a dynamic time, musically, culturally, there was lots happening in New Zealand at the time. Obviously, sport and all that kind of stuff. Was any of that kind of influencing what you were doing or what you were following in art? Or? Yeah,
well, the thing is, when I went to Tauranga Boys College, I kind of, because volleyball was my main passion, the art kind of took a bit of a back seat. So it wasn't really till I injured my back, that's when I started to really pursue the art again. Yeah, so that's where that, I guess that pivot took place, yeah.
And at the time you pivot and you follow art, right?
Yeah.
What are the Maori influences in your life? Because a lot of what you do now, I saw an amazing thing you did with Apirangata, Palmerston North. So there's a massive, not ability and capability, but there's also Maori influence from somewhere that comes into you. And I know you talked about Motiti before, but when does that start to come into effect?
Yeah, well, I guess it's really just through my upbringing since I was young, being brought up on the marae, on Motiti, and being brought up in Kawerau as well, most of the people there are Māori, and all my mates, they're either from Ruatoki there or, just, and we used to, in Kawerau I was in the bilingual, classes there as well, sort of thing, and, but I guess, my father, he wasn't officially taught whakairo, but he would try it, I do remember some po that he carved as well, just to practice and give it a shot. But yeah, it's always been a part of, my upbringing, and but I think even more so now, having moved back, I know we're fast forwarding a wee bit, but it was since I moved back from Sydney, and it was about 5 years ago, just a fire in my belly really burned to just really, I don't know, just get to the core of, I guess, my whakapapa and, te ao Māori and all that sort of thing. And yeah, just a journey of self-discovery and knowing who I am culturally, you know, as well. And just the whole thing of hononga through where I'm connected to whenua, but also through whakapapa as well. And not just in my Māori side as well, you know, I'm got some Scottish in me as well, and so I went on a haukāinga over to Scotland 2.5 years ago now, and just tracked down the whole Murray, you know, whānau, and my koro was a Murray, and that's where the Scottish line come through, and I ended up going to my great-great-great-grandfather's hometown over there in Moffat.
Moffat,
yeah, which is an hour south of Edinburgh.
Oh, yeah.
I got flown over there for a commission. This outfit flew me over to Scotland in Edinburgh to paint at a big event there. And I thought, well, shucks, while I'm there, I might as well go to my tūpuna's hometown, and so I did. And
hey, how was that for them going, hey, I'm a Murray, I'm your
relation? Yeah. I tell you what.
Tall Māori boy from Kawanana Motiti.
I stuck out like a sore thumb there because I was wearing my All Blacks jersey too, you know. But I ended up painting a portrait of our tūpuna over there. His name was John Alfred Borrowdale Murray. Yeah, and he was from there. That was where he was born and raised. And you know, it was while I was there in the small quaint little town called Moffat, I was just showing, you know, because we got a Murray page, you know, whānau page on Facebook, and I was just showing all the, you know, koroa and kuia as well, you know, and they'd never been there before, so a lot of them were crying and stuff, and just really reconnecting. And I guess it was a beautiful way of, the reason why I wanted to paint a portrait of him there was as a bit of a koha from the Murray whānau from Aotearoa to honour our tūpuna over there. So, and I ended up painting a portrait of him there, and it was the first mural ever painted in Moffat, because all old heritage buildings, So, and I got permission from the local MP as well and all that, and yeah, it just played out really beautifully actually. So, yeah. That's one little adventure.
Well, and we'll get on to others as well. So let's go back then to when you're out of school, right? And you start taking this a lot more seriously as a field of endeavour. It's a pretty brave decision to make, following art as a passion, as a career.
Yep.
You know, it's probably a little bit different now because there's UB School of Design, there's graphic design, there's lots of animation, all that kind of stuff. The technology's caught up, right?
Yep.
But in the 90s, which is when you were around, 98, 99, pretty brave decision.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you know, my thing was I was very passionate about just all things to do with creativity, especially artistic creativity, visual art and all that. So.
Why?
Well, it was just in me, you know. I just feel it was a deep-rooted passion of mine in my heart, you know, and I enjoyed it every time I painted or drew something or designed something. So I started off with a clothing brand, and you know, then it ended up going in 17 stores throughout Aotearoa, and then I started doing stuff with Converse. What was
the brand again, sir?
Reps. It was REPZ, represent, you know. So I had a, you know, pretty decent following back then, and but I also done automotive airbrush as well, you know, airbrushing Harley Davidsons and hot rods and all that, and so really just going for it in every direction, you know, in terms of tapping into creativity and just seeing what's really possible, you know, and just so I tried a whole lot of different things, you know, and did murals, you know, graphic design, branding, the whole lot, but I really wanted to. You know, it was becoming just a bit too worky for me, and I just wanted to...
What do you mean, too worky?
Yeah, I guess for me, I wanted to... For me, I really like to try and make everything that I put my hand and energy to, I want to make it count, you know, and I want it to be a full expression of my heart and who I am as a person, you know, so... And painting does that for me. It's painting and telling stories through my paintings, you know, that are... I guess in terms of satisfaction and fulfillment that I get from doing what I do, you know, the moment it becomes about money or all that sort of thing, I believe if you pursue what you love and enjoy, you know, the money will follow, you know, and that has been true, you know, in my experience and journey, you know, and it's, you know, I've just always kind of stayed true to that kind of path, and I've always stayed, you know, my goal is to always be authentic about what I paint and how I go about it, and just everything really that I do. So
when do you make that decision, and why do you make it that decision at that time? The quest for authenticity and a true representation of you and who you are, and what makes you who you are. When do you make that decision, and why does it happen at that time?
Yeah, I believe, as an artist, there's a measure of responsibility too, I think even in terms of whakairo,
I get it with whakairo.
I get it
with whakairo.
Yeah.
But in terms of the work that you're doing, because it is different, and you're not just closeted into one form of expression of art either, right? There's many strings to your bow, but the quest for authenticity is an important point, because we've talked to a lot of people who want true representations of who they are through the various art forms or various fields of endeavour that they pursue, and there's something that always happens to cause that.
Yeah, well, for me, in 1997, that was a time where I had injured my back and stuff, and I thought, well, I really wanted to, for me, art is not just about a career or a job. I see it as a calling, and I believe with that comes a sense of responsibility on not only what I produce, but how I produce it, a responsibility because I have a sphere of influence as well, and so everything I do, and the thing is, when it comes to authenticity, especially on social media, you get so many people, displaying their highlight reels on there, but no one sees the behind the scenes, and so I believe at the end of the day, people connect with the real, they're just over fake and over people's highlight reels. They really want to, and the way you be real is just through being vulnerable, and so I'm very open even about my journey with going through depression and stuff and reaching a suicidal point as well, which in hindsight ends up becoming a very powerful tool and again connecting with people.
And this is kind of where I was going with respect to you. That's where I was going, because it seems to me that and for a lot of people who go through that phase in their lives, that the way that they not go into it, but the response and the actions they take from that becomes a really important and fulfilling part of their lives that helps guide them through the rest of their lives, and certainly to achievements that they get to in their life. So can you talk me through where you realise that you're in this phase of your life, that you are, as you say, you have that depression?
My depression came about through a series of events, of hurtful events that I went through in life, and prior to that, I was a very, strong-willed, driven young man, sort of thing. And a lot of people who knew me at the time, just even myself, would never think that I'd be the type of person to go through depression. But as life does sometimes, it really brings you back down to zero, and it's the thing is about depression and stuff too, it's all contextual. We have no idea what a person is going through, looking from the outside in, but it's when you find out what that person's going through, and I've found out, not only through my own journey, but in me sharing my journey, thousands of people have opened up to me, over the years now, and you just get a full picture of what people go through, and you're less judgmental, and you can kind of understand why they end up in that place, and so I think the key for a lot of men is just being able to talk about that stuff as well. So my thing was really just went through a series of events, of hurtful events, relationship breakdowns as well, and all that. Not with my wife or anything, my wife, she's been my rock. We've been married for 18 years, and without her, I probably wouldn't be here today, sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's for me, it's become a huge passion of mine now. Just to really help men. Wanting to start this video series called Bro Toko as well, which is all about interviewing other men, a lot of Maori men as well. Just sharing one or two helpful practical keys on what are the things that actually help them come through their depression or help them process through it. because a lot of us men need to speak up, and you know, I think it's in our vulnerability we're able to give others hope, you know. Yeah.
How do you do that though? I mean, because this isn't easy, right? And you've said for Māori men, and I think you're right, for us there's our ability to be able to be vulnerable is limited by ourselves really, but also you know, the kind of social sense of storage, tough, mana, you know, all that kind of thing, which is at the end of the day, it's just stuff, it's just noise, right? So how do you do that?
Well,
and how did you do it more particularly?
This is how I help a bro that might be going through a really tough time and is struggling to talk. I'll get together with them, and the first thing I do is I share my journey, you know, and some of the aspects of my journey might be very personal and very revealing, you know, where most people wouldn't talk about that stuff. But in doing that, you actually create a trust and a safety, you know, with that person, because I'm basically making myself vulnerable to that person. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, that person will always open up after I've first initiated that, you know, and that's the power of vulnerability. And, you know, it's because by doing that, it removes judgment. People know that you're not there to judge them and all that, because you're leveling with them on the same level.
So was art a way of expressing your vulnerability through that time that helped through that phase of your life?
Yeah, it was part of it, but you know, I think to be practical, it requires a holistic approach. You know, physically, emotionally, you know, going for fresh air walks, you know, make exercise, making sure that's all good. You know, financially, you know, finances can be crippling and can be a huge burden and reason why a lot of men go through that. You know, there's the emotional side, you know, seeing a counsellor, you know, I'd highly recommend that as well. It was helpful for me anyway. And so just basically rebuilding, you know, it's like the 4 legs of a chair, you know, if one leg's broken or whatever, the whole structure becomes unstable. But if you restore all 4 legs again to a place of stability and strength, you know, it's, it's just, that's, for me, that's what I always prescribe to anyone going through depression, you know, and to be patient too, you know, and I say that from my own experience, you know, and for me, going through depression, you know, I acquired 2 things that are very powerful in life, you know, it's compassion and empathy. You know, empathy is when you're able to connect with the person's pain because you've been there yourself, and it's, it's I've discovered it's one of the most powerful tools I have in life now, because they will listen to you, because they know that you're not judging them, and they know that you've been there personally yourself, and so...
So how important is that for what you do now?
Yeah, no, you know, it's, for me, it's part of what I do, you know, it's part of my passion, but in saying that, I don't just paint on the theme of, you know, depression and all that sort of thing, there are opportunities where, you know, I get a lot of speaking opportunities as well to talk, you know, workplaces, construction companies and all that sort of stuff, you know, just getting them to cultivate cultures of, you know, just health and mental health and empathy and all that sort of stuff. So, but just breaking it down in a way where it's digestible and practical to actually outwork, you know, because sometimes it can seem a bit airy-fairy or, sort of, so I believe making it very practical is important,
Now, you said you went overseas for a while, and I do remember you were in Sydney for a while there. Why were you there again?
Yeah, I went over there, you know, just to, well, long story short, I was actually in the process of doing a potential TV show in New York, and it was on me painting 100 dog portraits of 100 dog portraits for celebrities over there. Long story short, because I had met a producer over there, a guy Sean Miles with ETV, and this was when I'd done a portrait of Ice-T and Coco's dog. All that sort of thing, and the thing is, I was really kind of just young and ambitious and just going for it, just trying anything and everything. But we moved over to Sydney as an interim move, just waiting for the final green light, but that fell through, so we ended up staying in Sydney for a while and then just settling there for a wee bit, you know.
Okay, so because I've heard the story and I found it really fascinating, and I always wondered, why Ice-T and Coco's dog?
Well, this is the true story here. Me and my cousin were watching their show at home. My cousin was staying with us at the time. And,
Don't get me wrong, I watched it too. Ice-T's the man, bro. He's the man.
Well, we were just watching TV, you know, and thing is, my wife and I, we love dogs with a passion. I've always been a huge dog lover and stuff, and we've got no kids, and so our girl, our American Bulldog honey girl is our girl, you know, she's our, but yeah, we saw Ice-T and Coco's TV show. They had their dog on their show as well. My cousin said, gee, you should paint their dog Spartacus, you know, and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, you know, and so long story short, you know, because I'd done one of Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer's dog too, you know, Daddy, and I really do, people that do know me, they know I love dogs with a passion, so yeah, and I followed all their journey and stuff, and that really led on to this whole dog portrait journey where I think that really was a way of me honing and sharpening my skills. It was a season of my life where, because I can honestly say I've painted and drawn probably over, you know, easily over 1,500 dog portraits now. Because Caesar Milan, when I painted his, he shared the photo on his Twitter page of me, him and his dog portrait, and I got flooded from dog owners all over the world here for commissioning portraits and stuff.
You to do their dog
Yeah. It was crazy, yeah. So I really have painted a lot of dog portraits. But it sharpened and honed my craft,
Because they're not easy to paint, right? Look, hey,
No,
don't get me wrong, I'm no artist, right? Yeah, trust me, right? So you're not speaking with a technical expert. If you really want to get technical around art and artistic phrases, you might want to speak to me as if I'm a 2-year-old. But I suspect there's a lot of detail and curvature and stuff that's required to be able to get that stuff right. I mean, I know that's probably true for most portraits, but particularly for...
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is, dog portraits, pet portraits and all that is, it was just a fusion of my two loves, you know, painting and dogs. So I went through that season really. But yeah, dog portraits, they, you know, it really taught me a lot about, you know, and especially going into portraits of people as well. That's the hardest thing to paint, hands down, you know, because if you get one slight detail wrong, it ends up looking like the person's cousin or something. So, you know, and so it's you've really got to be in it for the long haul when you're painting portraits of people. And so, yeah, but I'm thankful for that season of the dog portraits because it really helped hone my craft and developed my portraiture, you know, and skill set there.
How important for you is to get portraits? So, talking about people now.
Yeah.
To get portraits right, because you know you're a son of a of a tupuna, descendant of da-da-da.
Absolutely.
Getting all that stuff's really important, right?
Yeah.
How challenging, therefore, is it for you to be able to do? Because you've got all that weight of expectation.
Yeah,
particularly Maori.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the thing is, over the years, the thing is, with portraiture, you might have 5 of the best portrait artists in the world. You know, all painting, say, for example, you. Every portrait may look like you, but every portrait will be different to the other artist as well, you know, sort of thing. So we all have our own different style and stuff. But at the end of the day, portraiture, you know, it's paramount that you attain likeness, you know, because you're going to have millions of critics out there that will say, oh, bro, the nose is a bit funny or whatever, you know. So, you know, if you're going to be a portrait artist, you know, and I don't encourage many people to be because, and it all depends on. You actually get better as you get, you know, go along, and you know, I'm very dedicated to honing that part of my craft. I try and draw almost every day, you know, sort of thing, and you do get better. You do pick up a lot of. You know, little things along the way, and you know, I do a lot of online classes with some of the best portrait artists in the world, you know, and so it's all about upskilling that craft because there is a responsibility, you know, as a portrait artist to, you know, create a beautiful likeness of the person you're painting.
And do you think a lot of that for us, for Māori, comes from our history with Goldie?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
others, right? But also the fact that sometimes we're the harshest critics in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly on our own.
Yeah. Well, I'll go one step further. The artist is the hardest critic of their own work.
Really?
Yeah. Well, for me anyway. You know, I will not finish a portrait unless I'm happy with the likeness, you know, and I've done some portraits where I know I haven't nailed it because of time restraints and all that sort of thing, and the thing is, you've got to not be too harsh on yourself as well, because part of the whole portrait painting process is learning, you know. You cannot learn unless you make mistakes, you know. There's no portrait artist that's in their journey where they haven't botched up a portrait or whatever, you know. And I think the thing is, for me, I'm in a place now where I'm very comfortable and know that I'll achieve, you know, a great likeness, you know, sort of thing. And it's only because I love it and I've been doing it for years now. And the reality is, you just get better and better and better at doing it, you know, the more you do it as well. But there's another side of portraiture. This is one thing that I really want to say in terms of Māori art and my direction of what I'm very passionate about right now. I believe it's one of the things I need to do while I'm alive here on this earth, is to represent Māori portraiture. When I say that, you know, I always say, you know, Goldie and Lindell, they're my heroes looking up, you know, I just love their work and stuff, and especially their portraiture. Yeah, their portraiture.
They're not Māori.
But there's one thing that, you know, that I have that they don't, and it's me being Māori. You know, it's hononga. Hononga to the culture. Hononga in terms of knowing how to tikanga in terms of doing a portrait of someone, getting a whānau, iwi, hapus, their blessing, you know, permission, all that sort of stuff in terms of honouring their tupuna, you know. And there's another whole side to portraiture that I want to represent to the world, and so that was part of the aim of my home show that I've just finished. My father's portrait really was the prototype, or the first example of the type of portraits that I want to produce, because my next project is to do a body of 10 to 20 Māori portraits where I carve the frames for them as well. And the carved frames are all about, all referenced from their tupuna whare as well. So it's not only a realistic painting of the person's face, but it's about representing all that person is connected to.
Hononga all the way.
Yeah, hononga all the way. Yeah.
Just hold up for a minute here, because there's a couple of things to pick up on. First of which is, just re-clarify for me, you've not been formally trained at all?
No, not
aside from art at school?
Yeah. Besides art at school, no tertiary education at all. So I'm all self-taught, you know. And
so what does self-taught mean?
Well, for me, in my instance, it's basically I've been drawing since I was 4 years old. You know, it may not be in the context of an institution and all that sort of thing. I do believe there are some things that would, if I was to be, you know, take formal training and stuff, that I will learn a lot, you know, and I will improve, you know, in a lot of areas. But I think with me carving my own path too, you acquire some skill sets that you just can't get inside an institution. Like when I say that, I mean I've taken a lot of risks as well in my art career, and you can't learn risks. You either take the risk or you don't, or, you know, and what I mean by that is, you know, a big catalyst for me in terms of getting global, you know, inquiries and all that was when I painted the Prince portrait over in Minneapolis, and that was a risk for me, because when I flew over there, because basically I got a lot of requests when Prince died from people from his hometown wanting me to go over there and paint a portrait of him, and I thought, well, gee, you haven't got a wall sussed over there, you need to make sure all that's sorted, you know. Tried to do that, and I had a manager at the time too in Sydney. He was trying to secure a wall. Long story short, the day before I was about to fly into Minneapolis, I had just secured a wall. So right up to that point, there was still no guarantee I would fly but I got on the plane anyway, and just, you know, just thought, no, I'm just going to go over there and try and make it happen. And I was stressing out, you know, but it wasn't until the day I actually got there, I got an email saying that we'd secured a wall for me to paint, and it was the cinema that Prince used to attend, and it was right in the middle of Chanhassen, his hometown. and it was game over after that. It was one of I guess a game-changing life moment for me. Yeah, and it was done in a way, even there, you know, and gave my little pepeha and haka to the mayor of Chanhassen and all that, I really wanted to represent, you know, who I am, yeah.
So how do you, because an important part of art is the balance between wanting to represent and represent yourself and be vulnerable and express your own sense of perspective or view on that particular work, but the other part is also being able to live.
Yeah, absolutely.
And commissioning and being paid. And all. So how do you balance those two things, given you are obviously who you are and your connections and your whakapapa, and how do you, and is there conflict or not? Is it easily resolvable?
Yeah. This is one thing I'm real passionate about, is the introduction of social media and how it's a game changer for artists. There are a lot of artists that I guess, you know, I try to encourage them on the power of social media, and the reason why I do that is because it's been such a game changer for me in terms of, it's put me in the position where I'm able to say no, you know, and I'm able to pick and choose the inquiries that come in, the commission requests I get, and all that sort of thing, because it's really just extended my reach globally.
So how many commissions on average do you get a week?
Well, the reality is, like, I'm fully booked, you know, till my focus now is to really do 2-3 year projects. I want to focus now on just large iconic works, or like there's another project that I'm working on at the moment that I'm wanting to do, that body of 10 to 20 portraits and stuff. But in terms of commissions, like last year, I was fully booked for the whole year, and this was at the start of the year, you know, and so I always use the start of the year to plan out my whole year. And the thing is, I'm able to pick and choose the projects that I take on, and I'll only take on projects that align with who I am and that I'm passionate about, you know. And so for an artist to be in that position, you know, and one other thing too I'll add in here on this particular vein of thought is when I was in Sydney, I had a manager there, and he actually, you know, he runs his own events company and all that, but he had actually organised a lot of personal gigs with Prince, doing private soirees with the sheiks over in Dubai and stuff. So he really taught me a lot about my commercial value in terms of my worth, you know, in terms of a commercial sphere and all that. And it really, I was just like, I remember the first jobs I was getting and stuff like, oh gee, you know, is doing a live activation, you know, and getting 15K for it, you know, just for an hour, you know, just doing a bit of spray painting and all that sort of thing. And I was just like, and so there were moments like that that really kind of, you know, really started to open my eyes a wee bit on just the value of my time, my energy, and I guess my Mr. G brand now, you know. And so these days, you know, I'm able to really, for me, I'll only take on commissions like, for example, one commission that I do for a portrait I'm doing now at the moment, it's about that big, you know, and I charge 80K for that. And it's just, for me as an artist, it's being able to just really tackle head on this whole starving artist mentality as well, because I know a lot of artists that struggle too, you know, in terms of getting themselves out there. They might do 3 years of you know, developing their practice and their technique and stuff, but they have no idea how to market themselves, you know, especially on social media. You know, I've got like close to 90,000 followers now. What I usually do now is I just paint, you know, like for example, the last mural I've painted, you know, I just post a really good photograph of it, and people just share it like crazy, man, you know, and you end up becoming, it's just the viral nature of social media.
I guess how do you manage that though, with the sense of pessimism some people might have around people who promote themselves?
Yeah.
And their quote unquote brand, which they would, some might say, is quote unquote not Maori.
Yeah. Well, this is
so how do you deal with that?
Yeah, this is another important kōrero too that I have with Māori, because a lot of people think, oh bro, that's been whakahihi, you know, and I'm like, nah, what social media is about, it's about reach, you know, it's about effectively reaching people, you know, and I use my social media, and I've got thousands of private messages to prove it, and comments and all that. Well, I use my social media as a very powerful tool of getting a message of hope out there too. That's why, you know, I've put some very vulnerable videos out there of myself and my own personal journey of going through depression. Why? It's not to boast or anything like that. It's so that people who are struggling with depression and stuff can actually hear my story, connect with it, and I know that it's them hearing my story, that's what gives them hope, you know, because, and it's...
Do you get that a lot, that whakahihi kōrero?
I think, not really. I think it's more the ones who struggle in their own selves about the fear of what other people think of them. You know, for me, I'm very secure in who I am. You know, for me, as long as I'm true to myself and true to God, you know I'm not trying to, you know, be big-headed or anything like that. And people that know me, they know my heart, you know, and they know my background, they know my mahi that I've done with rangatahi. You know, my wife, she's a youth pastor at the moment, and that's our background. I've done a lot of, so I don't have to try and justify all that sort of thing, you know.
It's a great conversation piece.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole conversation has been a great conversation piece, but this particular point around, you know, we've talked to a lot of business leaders where success is seen to be whakahihi. And celebrating success. I mean, you know that old kōrero,
on that note, the thing is, and this is the thing, man, you know, te paipera, it says, celebrate with those who are celebrating and mourn with those who are mourning. You know, and so there's a balance there. And the thing is, I know there have been times where I've reached a measure of success. And the thing is, you find out those who are really for you, those who are celebrating with you, and then there's others who will go quiet on you, you know, and or they think you'll, you know, and so humility is definitely a biggie, you know, and that's been instilled in me through my parents too, humility, but at the same time, humility, I believe it's a heart posture, you know, it's, and at the end of the day, you know, I believe we don't have to try and, justify our heart posture to anyone. God's the one that sees it, you know, and as long as you're being real with yourself and God, you know, that's my belief is, otherwise you just, man, this whole thing of fearing what other people think is I believe a real trap, you know, for a lot of Māori, because they're constantly worrying about, they might think I'm this or they might, so it inhibits them, you know, and I will not let that stop me from sharing my story of hope, to give other people hope, to help them out of depression.
And I think people understand that. I think what they will struggle with is that it's tough not to be confident to a point where you're not being arrogant, but confident enough in your own self that you can deal with people who might have a certain negative perspective or pessimistic view of your braveness to be able to put something out there. And have it open for honest dialogue and debate and robust conversation and views about what people think about that. And I'm trying to think of how you deal with that, because you do. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, you know, being on social media as well, I've learned it, you know. I'm used to it, you know. I'm used to the criticism, you know, all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, you've just got to realise that that's a part of life, you know. People will always misunderstand you, they'll misunderstand your motives, you know, and if you're going to expend all your energy trying to explain to everyone your motives for why you do things, you're going to burn out, man, you know. And so it's a growing thing. I believe it's a part of being a leader as well. You're always going to have people that are going to misunderstand, you know, why you're doing things and all that, but that the key is just continuing, you know, just moving forward, you know, and
I think that's a really important point. Let's talk about, because the stuff you do blows me away. Like seriously, bro. I mean, I think when you've got relatively no talent, you realise when people have talent how amazing the stuff they do is, right? So let's take, for example, I think the mural you did in Palmerston North was about 10 days. Was it 10 days? 2 weeks?
Yeah, 11 days. Yeah, and that was...
So me not having a great work ethic, talk me through about how you do that, right? Because that's 10 days on a wall, and there's detail in there. And I wonder how do you what's going through your mind that keeps you focused and disciplined and as well as attentive and getting that detail out so that you can do honour to those people that you're doing the portraits of, that is therefore a vision to behold for people that come and look at it.
Well, really, it's just experience, bro. You know, it's that's years of doing what I do. You know, and you know, it's about working smarter and not harder as well. And again, that's through experience. You know, working efficiently, finding ways. And the thing is with spray paint too is it's an immediate, fast medium. So it's really about knowing how to wield the speed of the paint that comes out of the can, and you know, and it really just does come down to experience, you know, and yeah, that's I guess one of the main reasons why I'm able to do large murals like that quickly, you know, and people always buzz out, man, it was so quick, you know, sort of thing, but it's just the nature of the medium, you know, and one of my Maori art heroes is Te Kooti, you know, and I think he would have loved spray paint, because of the immediacy of the medium, because he was a real game changer in terms of introducing waituhi or painting, you know, wharenui, you know, because it was quick, a lot quicker than carving, and so I've always thought that about Te Kooti, you know, just I reckon he would have been, he would have been keen as, would have been an amazing street artist or Te Kooti, you know, and it would have really suited him perfectly, I think, the medium.
But am I right in saying that's not even your preferred medium? Like that's where a lot of your work goes, and I think to be fair, that's where a lot of the attention with you goes, because you've got social media, right? And the instant attraction of it and all that kind of thing. But that's not even your preferred medium. Yeah,
oh, well, when I say it, well, it is my preferred medium, but I don't just do, you know, use spray paint and stuff, and so I'm really wanting to, you know, I guess my main focus now is these Maori portraits, spray painted portraits with carved frames, and just presenting that body of work, you know, and I want to tour that throughout Aotearoa and also overseas as well, just to represent the importance and the uniqueness of hononga. Because when I was over in Miami a couple of months ago as well, I went to the Miami Art Basel, which is one of the biggest contemporary art fairs in the world, and I was there just to kind of feel out where does my stuff fit. And after that whole trip, I was like, man, it just really reaffirmed for me that I just need to be myself and do that strong and bold, you know, not be timid, but to go over there. And I actually spoke to a curator over there as well, and I said to them, because there was a place over there, was a street art, predominantly street art, and contemporary art. There is some Indigenous portraits done over there. And thing is with Indigenous art and all that, you know, especially portraiture, you've got, you know, with Maori, moko, all this beautiful aesthetic, you know, and other cultures, you've got the bright feathers and war paint and all that, and aesthetically it's just beautiful. So a lot of photorealistic artists, they borrow and adopt that, and without having any hononga connection to that culture and to that person and stuff. It may wow the crowds and stuff, but for me, I was saying to this curator over there, said, I really want to try and bring my stuff over here because, you know, what needs to happen is I really want to preserve the integrity of Indigenous art being done by Indigenous artists, you know, and for my instance, doing these Maori portraits by a Maori face, you know, and I had a good kōrero with Sandy Edshead as well, and you know, he rangatira, you know, and just he was, you know, the same thing, just having, when it comes to mahi toi or Maori art, it's having the Maori face represent that, you know, because they represent the connection. And for me, mana only comes through one way when it comes, you know, especially in Maori art, it's through hononga, connection.
whakapapa.
Yeah.
What do people like the tohunga, Sandy Adsett and Derek Lardelli, and I think of, Mark Kupua, Tohunga Tā, and all those Maori artists, and what do they say to you when they meet you and they know the artwork that you do? What are they saying to you?
Yeah, Sandy, he's a beautiful man, and he actually just really encouraged me to keep going on my path. There's other ones like Steve Gibbs as well, who's, I'd show him my work, and I'm very open to receiving any critique or anything from ones like them too, but again, he's just like, even with my father's portrait, for me, I believe my father's portrait really represents the direction of my art, where I'm heading, and so, but they loved it,
They haven't told you, hey, you need to get back on that chisel and do some more for.
Yeah. And I'm very, I in terms of whakairo, I'm very much a learner, and but I'm learning from, an amazing carver, Todd Cooper.
Oh, Todd.
No
Good
Wairua.
Te boy.
He's a good friend of mine too. So. And his work is exquisite. Him and Roy Toya and all the, and I'm good friends with Fane Robinson and a lot of Ian, Ian Wayne Grant and all them. And so, to be connected to a lot of these, Otaia tohunga, just beautiful men too, and very willing to share, and it's an honour and privilege for me to be under these men, and. But also, I guess for me, when it comes to Māori portraiture, why I want to represent that is because whenever people think of Māori portraiture, they think of Lindau and Goldie and all that, and rightfully so. But for me, I just feel part of, I have the ability to represent Māori portraiture in a way that hasn't been presented before. And the thing is, I need to back myself, because no one else will, or my wife or whatever. But there's so many critics out there, and it's like, and I just need to believe in myself, and to do that, in a way that's humble. There's nothing wrong with believing in yourself, and all that. So I always use my father's portrait as an example because. There's all these nuances in his portrait, like I've painted like a bird in his eye, a karoro bird, and to most people they would miss that, but that actually represents a beautiful part of his connection to Motiti. He gets up on the marae and says, kātangi te titi, kātangi te manu, ko te karoro, ko keria ma Hoete. He identifies himself as a karoro. Why does he do that? It's because when he was brought up on the island, that's all he saw as a child, down the beach, or when they're doing the measles, karoro birds all over. And so that represents his connection, his hononga, to where he's from, And this is one of many different kōrero in Dad's piece, and a lot of that sort of stuff is very special and unique and powerful, but it just gets missed in all these other representations of Māori portraiture. So I really want to create Māori portraits like this of Māori throughout the motu, prominent Māori, but also Māori that are unsung heroes within their communities, and hapu.
Tēnā koe. Hei taonga mo ngā tamariki mokopuna. Tēnā koe. E hoa tēnā koe I ene kōrero I o whakaaro. Thank you so much for talking to us. I wonder though, if you see a face and you do a bit of a, I'm trying to think of the wording, but you see a face and you've got a calculation in your head goes, if I was to do that portrait, then it'd go like this, it'd go like that, and you probably do that with everyone,
always, bro. Yeah, always.
Must be a bit of a haul, that talent comes along and bang, got to do that portrait one.
Yeah, no, always, man. It's it's just part of the gig. Yeah, always in that mode, and I guess the thing is with artists, like with league players and all that, you've only got a window of time in your life where it's your sweet spot, really. But with artists, you just, if you stick at it and stuff, you just really do just get better and better at your craft, if you're dedicated to your craft, and and that's the thing, I guess, that I love about a lot of artists that I follow. It's the maturity in the work, and the only way they can achieve that maturity is through dedication, you know, and so, yeah, you know, absolutely deserves my respect, yeah.
E hoa tēnā koe. Thank you so much for this conversation and for sharing your story with us. You know, when we grew up, the man of the 90s, a guy called Kenny G. Mr. G, though.
Oh,
you like that one? I just came up with that now. Yeah, no, pretty good, eh? Tēnā koe, hon. Ngā mihi nui kia koe.